task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night and good luck.
Hey, folks, 54 days until Election Day, and the elephant in the room is that debate performance. Donald Trump came to Pennsylvania last night thinking he was going to have another night like he had with Joe Biden. Instead, Kamala Harris, like Beatrix Kiddo in Kill Bill, took out the sword and went to work. Let's get to it. Tuesday night of this week is going to go down in political history in this country. It's going to go down in political history because you saw one of the best debate performances of our lifetimes. And I mean that by a good order of magnitude. And I also mean that as somebody who has done debate prep and debate training for debates at this level, who has been in and at both as staff and as an eyewitness to history, dozens of these events, both primary and national debates. And I have to tell you, the world has changed. Kamala Harris was the alpha female in the room last night or Tuesday night. She walked up to Donald Trump, stuck out her hand, and at that moment, the debate started to fall apart for Trump before he had even said a word, before he had even opened his sewer to lie. She shook his hand with confidence, with the physicality and the presence on the stage that will go down as a visual image, much like Trump lurking behind Hillary Clinton in 2016. Donald Trump proceeded to get to the podium and just beclowned himself for the next 90 minutes. It was an embarrassing, painful example of elder abuse. The staff should have this guy in a care home, not on the campaign trail. The staff should have this guy medicated to treat his dementia, not out in front saying he wants to be the president of the United States of America for a second time. The lies were astounding. The lies were thick on the ground. You knew he was going to go after immigration. You knew he was going to make that the centerpiece of his world. But we also knew right in the beginning of the campaign, I want to get this one out of the way first because it's funny but not funny. We knew right away from the moment Trump said the words Springfield and Aurora that he was about to go down a rabbit hole that has obsessed the super MAGA weirdo media culture for the last week. There is a belief on their part that somehow Haitian immigrants are roaming neighborhoods in Springfield, Illinois, and Aurora, Ohio, or wherever, killing dogs and cats and eating them. It's a lunatic, nutburger, weirdo meme story that the Republican apparatus has now been forced to echo. You got J.D. Vance out there acting like it's true. You've got all these stories on streaming channels for MAGA influencers like Benny Johnson claiming that it's true. And so, of course, Trump, who is now not being advised by Susie Wiles or Chris LaCivita, or even somebody like Corey Lewandowski, but instead was getting debate prep from Laura Loomer and Tulsi Gabbard, Trump had to go out there and make the case. He had to go out there and start shouting and yelling at the moderators that people were eating dogs, that people were choosing to migrate to places so they could kidnap and eat pets. It was as fucking crazy as you can imagine because he is, in fact, crazy.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
But what you saw in that debate, that line, that reliance on that super right-wing media ecosystem, that reliance on the MAGA comfort blanket that he has, it was a giveaway right off the top that he didn't prepare for this debate in a meaningful way. He wasn't going to be happy Trump or smart Trump or policy Trump or any of the crap that the campaign was pitching. All that was always a fantasy. What he was going to be is dog-eating Trump. What he was going to be is crazy Trump. What he was going to be is the Trump that goes out there. And guys, just process the things he did last night that were so crazy. Talked about eating dogs. Said that doctors were killing babies after they'd been born.
You can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
So, talked about January 6th, our side on January 6th.
and nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer.
The American side is the actual side on January 6th. The terrorists are your people, Donald. Went off on this tangent about tariffs, proving he understands nothing about economics.
I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation.
And most importantly, all night long, he took the bait. Kamala Harris flicked out the bait first couple times and thought, he's not too stupid. He can't take this bait. He won't pick up this bait. But he did over and over again. When it came to talking about his crowd sizes, she triggered him so much, I thought he was going to have a stroke on stage.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
When it came to talking about Wharton and the tariffs and Goldman Sachs and the tariffs, Trump absolutely went into overload.
What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country.
He couldn't imagine. He was sputtering and stuttering and discursive as could be, not unlike a normal Trump rally in some ways, but he recognized very early in the debate, she had control, she had his number. So the whole night, she was manipulating Trump's emotional state in a way that absolutely wrecked him. When she said, Donald, I invite folks to go to a Trump rally because you'll see that people start getting bored and exhausted and leaving. She couldn't have offended him more and pissed him off more and made him more crazy if she'd said, I'm going to Mar-a-Lago to burn the place to the ground and kill the family. He was so freaked out about that. And it told her and it told all of us how unsuitable he is for this work now. Donald is older. Donald is sicker. Donald's brain is more broken. Donald is not the man he was, not just in 2016 or 2022 or mid-year this year. He's not even the man he was a few weeks ago. He is absolutely messed up. And you could see it last night. His eyes were vibrating like pachinko balls. He was staring down at the podium doing the Donald Trump tell. By the way, here's his tell. And anytime he's nervous or upset, he makes the duck face. He sort of purses his lips out and makes a duck face. He was making the duck face. He would not look at her. He would not meet her eye. He would not engage her. He would not look up from the podium. He was bellowing and yelling and blustering from that stage. And I have to tell you, folks, this is a sign of a weak, broken man. He had no control over his emotions, no control over his message, no control over the stage, no control over the moderators. I want to give ABC a quick shout out, by the way. They fact-checked Trump in real time 4 times during the debate. The first time was about abortion, where Trump had told the usual lie of cutting babies' heads off after they're born. And they Lindsey Davis politely corrected him and said,
there is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
And Trump was stunned. He was absolutely shocked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. And I'll tell you why. He's lived in the bubble too long. Even a lot of mainstream media would have treated him differently and not fact-checked him live on the spot. They were prepared for it. They understood it. They fact-checked the cats and dogs thing, which made him even more angry.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking
television
it from the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that.
Now, someone was asking David Sachs, the part-time podcaster and terrible poker player, why he got fact-checked and Harris didn't. Well, David, the reason he got fact-checked and Harris didn't was Donald Trump's mouth is a sewer of lies. He never stops lying. When he starts lying, he continues lying until he runs out of air or food. She got a quote-unquote pass from the moderators because she wasn't lying, folks. She was telling the truth about who she is, what her plans are, and where she's going in the country. And I have to say, as much as Trump lost this debate, and he lost it, he lost this debate, much as Biden lost his first debate, Trump lost this debate. As much as he lost the debate, she also won the debate. She led off with a set piece on her middle-class background and talked immediately, unlike Donald Trump, and unlike Hillary Clinton in 2016, she was externally directed. She was saying, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to be on your side. I'm going to help you. And addressing very directly the audience that she's looking for, 18 to 40, lower propensity voters who are tuning in somewhat for the first time. They are seeing her define herself by talking about a $25,000 first-time home buyer credit, talking about a $6,000 child care credit, talking about a $3,700 increase in the child care deduction. Things that will matter, talking about getting more homes built in this country, talking about building an economy that works for people, unlike just Donald Trump's friends like Elon and Peter Thiel. It was so smart and so well considered and so natural. It was not overly produced. It was not overly memorized. She talked about her life. It wasn't all a straight line, but it worked. It felt real. It felt genuine, and it connected to people. And that's something you can't buy in a debate. You can't buy connection to ordinary people in a debate. You have to do it. You have to win it. You have to make that case to the folks in that audience. And she did very successfully. The other area where Donald Trump found himself in absolute shitty quicksand, fecal quicksand, if you will, was on the subject of abortion. Now, on the subject of abortion, Donald Trump was caught between, as I said, the Scylla of wanting to brag about ending Roe versus Wade and the Charybdis of knowing that his national abortion ban policy is deeply unpopular. He's been running away from it for weeks. He knows how bad it is for him politically. He knows how much damage it's done to him already. He was caught between those two and couldn't remember which lie to tell. Could not remember which lie he had articulated last. So the lie that, quote unquote, everyone wanted it to go back to the states, everyone wanted to end Roe versus Wade, Democrats, Republicans, independents, conservatives, liberals, was, of course, a very large scale lie. But he wasn't even convincing himself when he was telling the lie. He wasn't even making himself feel like he'd made the case. I found it shocking how weak he seemed in delivering that answer. When she hammered him on, will you sign a national ban or will you veto it? Donald Trump was in an actual state of panic. I watched his eyes and his facial movements. His jaw was churning back and forth like he was on a meth bender. He was very, 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 very nervous. Okay. It was an ugly moment for him. And he knows just how bad it was. He understands just how deep that hole went for him on the abortion answer. So what did he do? He ended up continuing to tell racist lies about immigrants and then dug in to attacking the Central Park Five. And folks, if you're too young to know what it is, years and years ago, 40 plus years ago, Donald Trump tried to get 5 young black men executed in New York for claiming that they had been engaged in a brutal attack in Central Park. It was not true. They were exonerated. The actual criminal was found in the case. And yet, even now, because they're African American and because they stood on the stage of the DNC and talked about justice, Donald Trump has never let it go. He can't let it go.
A lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. And
so if you're an African American who thinks Donald Trump is on your side, I recommend you go back and watch that clip, because he's saying that 5 innocent young black men should have been executed. He still believes it even today, even though they have been proven in a court of law, they've been proven with eyewitness testimony, they've been proven with DNA evidence, they've been proven with a confession of the actual criminal, and they've been proven by the eyewitness account of the victim to not have been the perpetrators of this crime. But Trump still wants them hanged even now. So if you're an African American, I want you to think really hard about what you're in bed with, because the racism is never far from the surface with Trump. Why is he talking about Haitians eating dogs and cats? He's talking about that because there's a coded racial message for his people in that theme, in that trope. It's not very well coded. It's not very deeply coded, but you get it. When he says Haitian eating animals, eating pets, you get it. You understand why he's doing it. It was a deep humiliation for Trump. He could not bring himself to say he wanted Ukraine to win the war against Vladimir Putin. Why? Because as we all know, Vladimir Putin is Trump's boy and vice versa. Trump wants Putin to win. He wants Putin's tanks in the streets of Ukraine. Why? He hates Zelensky. Why does he hate Zelensky? Because Zelensky wouldn't make up fake evidence against Joe Biden in the bullshit Burisma scandal 4 years ago. This is a guy whose pathologies were out in full force. When he is confronted on being a dictator and sucking up to dictators, and that he would be weak in the face of dictators like Putin and Xi, what does he do? As his character reference brings up Viktor Orban.
Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president.
Viktor Orban is an Eastern European dictator of the first water. He is a guy who is praising Trump because he knows he can play him. He knows that Trump is weak for dictators. He knows Trump is dictator curious, he said carefully. And look, all of this debate last night showed you once again, the real Trump is unelectable, unacceptable, un-American. He shat on this country repeatedly in the course of this debate. Kamala Harris posed a vision for a bold future for a proud country. Donald Trump said, we were a third world nation. We are a shithole. We're governed by idiots. Everything's bad about America. We're weak. We're soft, all of that. It was astounding once again to watch a former president talk about this country like he hates it. And folks, he does. He failed in this debate because he does not love America. He loves only himself. And that narcissism and that self-regard can only go so far. And in last night's debate, you saw where it went, right off a cliff for Donald Trump. And that, folks, is the elephant in the room.
Good night and good luck.